Let's take a look at your math practice sheet. The first question says, a lot in a subdivision was being sold for $5 per square foot. It was 80 feet wide and 120 feet deep. How much did this lot cost? This question is trying to get at the square foot of the lot because we know each square foot cost $5. So if we draw out our lot, and I would always recommend drawing out items on the test. You have enough scrap paper to use on the test to draw out all your math. So this particular lot is 80 feet wide by 120 feet deep. If I multiply my width times my depth, I get 9,600 square feet. Again, that is the area of the lot. Now each one of those square feet sold for $5. So if I multiply that times $5 per square foot, I come up with $48,000. Problem number 2 on our math practice says, a house sold for $55,000. The total commission received by the broker was $3,300. What was the rate of commission? If I look at this problem, I have the key components of a T. I have a smaller number, a larger number, and a percent or rate. So I'm going to use my T formula to figure this problem out. My smaller number goes on the top, which is the commission paid. My larger number goes on the bottom, and I can use these two to figure out the percent or the rate. So I divide the $3,300 by the $55,000, and that gives me 0.06 or 6%. The third problem on the math practice says, a property with $4,000 in commission was sold on a cooperative basis. The brokers agreed to split the commission equally. The listing broker had expenses of $350 and the selling broker had expenses of $450. How much commission will each broker receive? Well, if you look at the problem, it's trying to make you think that it's more difficult than it really is. They agreed upon a split in the commission and the total commission was $4,000. That means that each broker got $2,000 in commission. The expenses do not affect how much each broker received. So the answer for this one is $2,000. Question number 4 on your math practice says, Mrs. Light wants to net $60,000 on the sale of her home, and her broker will charge a 7% commission. To obtain her net price, what must be the gross selling price of the house? This is a T formula because we have a percent or rate and we have a smaller number or a larger number. There's something special about this particular problem though. This is what we call a seller net problem. And in order to make a seller net problem work, we need to invert the commission or the percentage. And when I say that, I mean we need to take the commission, which in this case is 7%, subtract it from 100, which gives us 93% or 0.93, which is the number that I'm going to put in my rate section. Now this problem really revolves around what the seller wants to put in their bank account after they pay for all their expenses. The only expense we have here is the commission, which we are adjusting for by flipping or inverting our rate. We know the seller wants to net $60,000, so now I need to decide, is that the larger number or the smaller number? Since the $60,000 is the amount after the commission is paid, that makes it the smaller number. It goes on top. So in order to find the sales price of the house, we need to divide the $60,000 net by 0.93. And if we do that, you'll come up with $64,516. Again, this is what we call a seller net question. Anytime you see something to the Question 5 on the math practice says, a seller netted $46,150 after closing expenses of $350 and a 7% commission. What was the sales price? So again, a T formula. Also, we see right away it says the seller netted $46,150. So that makes this a seller net question. With the seller net, we've already learned that we need to invert our commission. So if we take 100%, subtract out 7%, that gives us 93% or 0.93. This goes in the rate part of our formula. We have a new dimension here though. We have expenses of $350. The seller net question is trying to take into account all the expenses to see what the seller will have in their pocket at the end of the transaction. So to make this work, I need to add what the seller wants to receive to the expenses that they will incur outside the commission, which means that my adjusted net is $46,500. This is still the smaller number, so it will go on top. So I take my $46,500 adjusted net and I divide it by the 0.93, which will help me get the sales price. $46,500 divided by 0.93 gives me a sales price of $50,000. Question 6 on the math practice says, a broker listed a home for $150,000 and sold it for 95% of the list price. If the home listed at a 6% selling commission and the split was 55% to the listing broker and 45% to the selling broker, how much did the selling broker receive? This isn't that complicated of a problem other than we need to break it down into its component parts. We can't figure out how much the selling broker received until we figure out what the total commission was. And we can't figure out the total commission until we figure out what the sales price is, because commission is based on sales price, not list price. So again, break it down into parts. Part number 1 is that the home sold for 95% of list price. So if the list price was $150,000, we multiply that times 0.95 and we get a sales price of $142,500. Now we can use that sales price to calculate our commission. We know that the commission is 6%. So we move the $142,500 into our second formula. We multiply it times the 6% commission, and we get a total commission of $8,550. Again, that's total commission. And this total commission is based off of the sales price. And we use the sales price multiplied times the commission rate to get the total commission. So you can see there's a relationship between all three of those. Now we need to take the total commission from that formula, and we need to look at the part that the selling broker is going to receive. The problem says the selling broker is going to receive 45% or 0.45 of the $8,550 total commission. So if I multiply those two together, I get $3,847.50, which is the final answer to my question. Again, the problem, once broken down into parts, isn't that complicated. You just need to figure out what parts do I need and work it in steps in order to get to your final results.